I was fired early in my career by a team of 2 senior people I reported to. Revenge came in time. When I was in my early 20s, trying to make it in the world and just starting out, I reported to a senior sales team as a junior salesperson. Really, it was a support role and I knew my place. Watch, stay quiet, learn and help them. I report to a lady who was mid-level and the senior guy who was head of sales. I was green, and while I was seeking mentorship and periodically asking for advice to improve how I was able to support them, they mistook it for incompetence. It was simple things like learning what format each of them preferred their daily reports in, and tasks they had to do. I also had an issue because the senior guy basically stole my first bonus at the 3-month mark. It was tiny amount to him, but a lot for young me. I didn't officially complain, but asked him about how he was able to keep my bonus when it was obvious it tracked back to my efforts on the data. He didn't like that and didn't pay me. I was doing a good job, I'm fully aware of my skills. But with the explanation it's just not working out, they fired me a few weeks later. I spent a couple months getting a new job, which turned out to be an amazing smaller firm where I was appreciated, mentored correctly, and thrived. The new firm was very successful. About 2 years later, after I'd become a vital but still junior part of the smaller company, my former firm closed up in the region and put everyone out of work. So I saw through the glass, while walking by the boardroom one day, that the senior guy who stole my bonus was being interviewed for a job at my current firm. My current superiors didn't see me walk by, but my old boss, and I made eye contact. Now, in a small sales team at a small firm, it's important to have a nice working relationship and trust. It's also a lot of selfish salespeople who are there to make money and don't like being ripped off. So later that afternoon, I quietly mentioned to the one boss I saw X in the office today. When I walked by, I used to work for him, that asshole stole my bonus one time. It was all I needed to say, because the last thing my current boss needed was a person who'd do that on our team. Then times got tough, and I know that man spent 2 years looking for work. 6 or 7 years later, I was at a new company in a more senior role, and the one lady who I originally reported to called me and was selling at a new firm, and she was calling to ask if I'd be interested in purchasing from her. I didn't know she had started working there. The firm she was with was selling something that was very basic and interchangeable to competing firms. She'd gone from selling important things to selling a nothing product after the original firm closed. She acted all happy and nice to me and recalled the great job I did when we worked together. I also know she didn't want to be talking to me, but her call log said she had to call. I told her thanks and sent me along an official quote and proposal. In the industry we were in, she was paid not only on new sales, but a net sales measurement, meaning she had to retain clients as well and bring in new ones. I had a lot of commitment at the firm she was now at. While she spent her afternoon drafting a proposal, I spent a couple hours pulling all my business from that company and subbing it for a competitor up the street. She emailed me a full proposal and mentioned she was excited to be working with me again and supporting my business. She had no idea yet I'd just pulled everything, and she would never receive a bonus this year because of the size of the amount I pulled. The next day she emailed me quite upset and had CC'd her boss, who I've known for years and had a good working relationship with. I replied to all and thanked her and said I'd decided to go with a competitor because it just won't work out, as I find your approach to business dealings to be insincere. Her boss emailed me back directly and asked what happened, and I replied that I just don't think she is a sincere person. My business to their firm was worth more than her job, and she didn't last more than a month there after that. Did OP went too far, or they deserved that? Tell us your thoughts. Do comment, share, like and subscribe. I thought this was petty through the first part, but holy beep, you torpedoed that woman's career. I guess the lesson learned is to treat people nicely regardless of age or experience, because they could eventually be in a position to destroy you just for fun. OP, I am so sorry that you faced workplace bullying in the early part of your career, yet in the end you turned up alright and forced to be reckoned with. Good on you bombing the careers out of those 2 people who bullied you. Actually, you didn't just do yourself a favor, but you spread others having to deal with them and be in the same hell as you were. As someone who was raised to be a nice guy to everyone, regardless of where they come from or what they do, it's wild to me that this is a lesson people struggle with learning. Nerdy side note, reminds me of how in D&D it is recommended to treat everyone with the respect due to a god, because it just might turn out they were a god in disguise, mingling with their people. But like, is it really that hard to be a nice person and see the good in others, and not want to steal credit for it? Crappy bosses, denied overtime. I had a job working warehouse/delivery for a store. The entire corporate structure was built on treating the people below you like shit, and that was passed down through every level. Managers would just bark orders and bitch you out for any reason they could think of. They paid about 25 cents over minimum wage, and the bosses drove BMWs and Mercedes. The big boss lived in an $8 million house. Our store was the freight hub for 4 others in the little chain, so we got to know the drivers from the other stores well, as they were always coming to load freight or drop stuff off. One day, we're sitting with 2 drivers from another store, and Buddy remarks that he and his partner are working over 60 hours a week. I say he must be doing okay with all that overtime pay. He says they're not getting OT, just paid a straight time rate. I ask him if he signed an averaging agreement. He says no. He shows me his pay stub, and there it is. His partner comes back and confirms all this, and they've been doing it for months. He'd asked his manager about OT, and been told that straight pay was just the way it worked. I tell them that's illegal, and urge them to take it to labor relations. They're reluctant to rock the boat, figuring they'll be fired. So I drop it. We never got any overtime. Our warehouse was busy, our store was not. A couple months later, they're in again, and Buddy's partner tells us he and his girlfriend are moving back east, and he's giving his notice. I tell him again to file a complaint, nothing to lose now. So he does. A few weeks go by, and when I come in one day, there are expensive boss cars parked all along the loading dock. My workmate says something big is going down. All the managers have been summoned, and are inside with a bunch of people in suits. So we wander upstairs to see what's going on. The company bookkeeper had an office in our store, and handled all the payroll. He was a Chinese immigrant, nice guy. The bosses were trying to pin this on him, saying he didn't speak English very well, which was true, and had obviously screwed everything up. Turns out he was a pretty cagey guy. He knew what they'd told him to do was illegal, and was able to produce all the records of him telling them that, and of them telling him to basically just shut up and do it. He hands it all over and quits. I see Buddy, with a new partner, a few weeks later. He's got a pay stub for about 15 paychecks worth of earnings. Company got caught for all the overtime pay, and a pretty substantial fine on top of that. Added bonus, the second in command had driven over a nail when he parked his silver BMW on the loading dock, and had a flat when he came out of the store. He opened his trunk and called me over and said, "Change that for me." I told him sorry, that's not my job, and if I hurt myself, my compensation claim would be denied. As he went in to call a tow truck, I stood on the loading dock and gazed upon all the havoc I had wrought, and my heart was glad. It feels good to see little guys won this time. Share your thoughts with us via comment. Fantastic job, OP. Something similar happened to my wife and her coworkers in a very busy spa in a nice resort. They never received holiday pay, even though they worked all holidays, Christmas Day included. We ended up moving to different area of the province, so she filed a complaint with labor standards. We moved and forgot all about it. About 2 months later, my wife received a huge paycheck for all the unpaid holiday pay. My wife's phone was blowing up for days, with all her ex-coworkers calling and texting to thank her for what she did. All staff ended up receiving years' worth of holiday pay. The acting manager was fired, LOL. So proud of my wife. While this is a satisfying story, the worst part is that the bosses won't face any criminal charges for this theft. If you stole 15 paychecks from the company, you'd be doing hard time. They steal 15 paychecks from numerous people, and they get is a slap on wrist fine and a please pay everyone what you should have paid in the first place, if you don't mind. What a joke. Share your thoughts with us and share this video with your colleagues. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.